I love what Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, the first 4 verses. Let me read it to you. And now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testified that they gave as much as they were able and even beyond their ability. Entirely on their own, they urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. I love that phrase, the privilege of sharing in this service to God's people. I know you feel, as Laurel and I do, and will, I think, always feel that sharing with the beleaguered church in Haiti is, in fact, a great privilege. I consider it maybe the highest calling God has ever given me. And in this past year, we've begun to find out, even though I've gone to Haiti many times over the years, I've never lived there. So I've learned a ton this year, primarily all the stuff I really don't know. I've met a lot of Haitian brothers and sisters who, in spite of their material poverty, show this rich depth of the fruit of the Spirit. I've also met a lot of missionaries whose service and sacrifice make me feel almost ashamed of my measly efforts, until I remember that Jesus said, you don't need a mountain of faith, you just need a little mustard seed, and God can use that. So I'm praying that He'll continue to use our little mustard seed for year 2 of our time down in Haiti. And we're headed back. I don't know when you'll watch this, but July 27th is when we're headed back. And in this upcoming year, we have multiple goals. Last year, I had one goal because I knew it crosses all cultures, and that is I wanted Quisqueya Church to become a church of abiders, people who know the scriptures personally, who read them for themselves and abide daily, because Jesus says, if you abide in me, you'll bear fruit, but if you don't, no fruit. And so that's been our goal, and we've made some real progress on that. This year, we need to help the church become more self-sufficient. They're under a lot of duress, not just from political unrest and COVID, but just Haiti's general characteristics. There's just really tough to keep the church going there, even though it's not an issue of their faith and their commitment. We're also going to try and help the church. You'd think that all the years down there that they'd have become adept at helping the poor, but the problem is so overwhelming, it's easy to see why they haven't. And so one of my goals this year, and if you're interested, I can tell you more about it, is a Brothers Keeper ministry, and where we help the poorest of the poor work for just the basics. And I think we've got a plan. I'm sure we'll learn a lot about what works and what doesn't there. And then the last thing is we want to decentralize the church. The violence and the pandemic have caused people to be afraid sometimes to travel just across the city. And so we want to start creating pockets of Quisqueya Chapel churches all over the city and even up the mountain there. And then just gather everyone together on the first Sunday of the month for communion. And we're hoping we can help increase people's community by decentralizing the church. Well, those are our goals, and who knows what God has to say. But if you want to continue supporting us, please, we pray that you'd participate in this privilege of serving God's people in this way. If you want to do more than what you're already given, please text my wife, Laurel, at 913-626-6243, and she'll help you get connected through our website or however you need help. She'll give you the support on that. Thank you all so much for doing this. It truly is a privilege. Even out of our poverty sometimes, which it's hard for us to say as North Americans, but out of our poverty, that it would well up into generosity in this privilege of sharing with God's people. Thank you.